performance and the music, performing and the space is very interesting. I think it works together, being in the presence of others. So yeah, it's quite an interesting one in terms of doing this Zoom session. So I thought about how would I approach this, and yeah, so in this session, I thought maybe I should just bring in an offering from what I've just put together, my collection of poetry, which is titled "Hungry on Arrival," which is published by Botsotso. And this was published, it's actually a year now since it's been published. It was published last year, April. So yeah, let me just get on with it. So in this collection, often I kind of put a lot of the stuff that I did in the uh, creative writing masters at Rhodes, and working together with Alan, who I've known for a very long time, Alan at Botsotso. It was almost like kind of curating a book as opposed to editing a book, because I also have a visual aspect. So at the back of the book, um, there is a short piece to kind of introduce the session, or kind of, encapsulate what I think is what I'm about, and just to make the statement. And it reads as such. It's a very short piece. Like all poets, I must die, fighting the rhythm of pages and a quiet storm. As I claw deeper into my dungeon, I shall canvas a rhyme across night skies to lull the violence of voices. So that introduces what Hungry on Arrival is about, which is obviously Hungry on Arrival is the title of this collection. And I don't know if you can see me, but there's also a visual aspect about this book. And so as you open the book, you'll see the images, because I also have a photography background, and I also try to incorporate this in this
Sorry,
collection.
sorry, Kabelo.
Hello?
I think you haven't allowed your computer to allow you to use your video, so we are not seeing you at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay, I see that. Okay. I don't know, is that coming across? No?
No.
Okay. So let me just do the poetry then, because yeah, it seems to be giving me a bit of an issue.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay, so it's a portrait of Bani Rachabani, who is a jazz musician. One of my teachers is late now, a very influential jazz musician from my neighborhood. So the first piece in this book tries to capture the sounds of my community. The sounds of my community is not just the music, but what I hear, and the smell and every other thing that is how we sound like, how we speak like. And the piece is titled Pimtown Scomplas. Pimtown is Pimville. It refers to the suburb of Pimville, Soweto, a term evoked to boast the suburb's rapid development with regard to infrastructure. This is often ahead of other township spaces or communities. So we kind of say Pimtown to kind of boast about our neighborhood. So yeah, the piece goes like Pimtown Scomplas. Red moon dressed to kill inside Scomplas. I perish in your special light. In a red district where the heart gets sewn inside a glass coffin of night, mahulonga mata. Smere mere, cradle to my palm, turns me inside out. Brabani thumps a storm, pierces a crisp lament out of Pinky's jazz clinic. Hot sticks, burning out all my love. Tababusiu inside Harare. Bra funky sauce from the third base, where gauze would shit on the rest. The dopest guitarist, a finger fucking lefty, loops a Soweto blues to perch Babalas inside the wobbly tin of a silver night. Pimtown, home ground, off pubs, mwaps, I wish you were here to hear me sparring Lebavino Bachana in your backyard. See you on the flip side of our ancestral land. Nja Tamamogodo. Hear me through the music of your heart. They say your sickly bones are frail. Nyaupe tears at your wings, my angel. Brown eyes no longer turn tavern tables. Ekhaya lethu. I want to be mute, soft as early light in your blue skies, before chasing the dawn train burning one side of Mansfield, Kliptown, before the crackle of our bunny truck delivers our daily bread. Home ain't where the heart is. Fuck that. Home is where Abomake radiates 7 colors inside ghetto kitchens, whilst Tusomuta won't cast the fear of God traveling through airways. Whilst the eye of Jehovah remains a witness, watchtowers, Catholics, Methodists, Sioni, Universal, Grace, Seventh-day Adventists unveil true colors, Kasiyamakasi. Tipsy lips of red moonlight inside a scomp last night. I succumb to your fireplace. So yeah, Pimptown, Scomplas, that's the first piece. I will move to a similar kind of approach in this writing, a piece titled Somewhere, which also kind of tries to capture the aspect of sounds in my community. Somewhere. Somewhere inside a block of flats, a trombone wields a blue flame, then dies. Somewhere in the wake of a suburban silence, a cigarette cough ruptures a lung, then quietly sleeps. Somewhere inside our tyrant, black screams rise from a burning tire, refusing to deny. Somewhere across a treacherous road, a racist hound grinds her teeth unashamedly. Somewhere behind a curtained window, a candle sobs, slowly suffocates. Somewhere beneath the crack of moonshine, rust permeates dawn, tarnishing our silver dreams. Somewhere behind shut doors and the electric strings of wired fences, I roll and return darkly. Yeah. So the next piece I'll go into, it kind of tries to capture, it goes to the township as well. It's titled Abu Cheribam. Um, yeah, so unlike the previous piece, but yeah, you'll hear it. But Abu Cheribam basically translates as my girlfriends. Um, the piece emanates from an ancient from an incident whereby a stepfather murdered a young girl. The aspect of Bitso Levi ke Seromo. Bitso Levi is Bitso Levi ke Seromo is basically a Sesotho saying, which means a bad name is a curse. And basically, we give children names, and somehow maybe they kind of embody those names in a certain way. But this comes from a traditional saying, it's a Sotho saying, which is "Bitso lebi ke seromo." and it gets explored in ways characterized by the women named in the poem. Moreover, the poem is an extension of a conversation with a poem titled Beautiful Daughter by Bonani Kabelo. So I also speak to sort of in most of my work, I also speak, I'm in conversation with some of the writers before my time. So this piece would go like, Matakala, too black, too strong. She walks zigzag, going to get Zamalek, Hammer Scout, beer bottles, role models, boom, blackout, baby at home, stuffed grant, all guzzled and gone in the wind of ganja split. Dipuo madi kuranta, pants pizzolus, pepezana, spread rumors like disease, house to house, and if eight drop out, resistata san ili Europa, mam kopozi kona taba, dia baba, moritong wajwala, dimpuruma strong, cut berry teeth, breaking laughter in her voice. O stroller down the block hums a hymn infested with death. Utoriki 80, as if meant to be a secret. Matsileng walks in the middle of a road. Roto mena di razor, chain smoker ya motsoko, o gamme pepe, bula sekelo tla bona mohlolo, a drunken master getting down in a quiet storm. She wears a wardrobe of lies to disguise a charm. She could have been someone if she did not put the bottle so high above. Ntabiseng. Ntabiseng mathekisela mpeng ya bosiu. Whole spice a choice for variety Ferdinand, double tot on the rock solution for a quick fix. She wears the light of a star badge. Mbalekanya refuses to shine her path. Sunday, wake up, news. A baby girl raped and dumped beside a sewage dead end. Ntabi weeps to death when police discover underwears reeking of sewage in the closet of her ex's shack. What she said, after ejaculating, he put a 20 rand note on the dresser, said I was not to utter a word. His wife, my mother, turned a blind eye so long as he put food on the table. Yeah. So those were two pieces. The last one was titled What She Said, which is a very short piece. And yeah, as I said, the other piece, the rhythms are mostly captured from the township experience. The next piece also, yeah, a lot of these pieces also I have musical kind of inclinations or music wrote or built with music into them. The next piece is titled Africa Mkhize, African jazz pianist. Your fingers are free, a wild wind blowing whoo, whoo, inside a purple winter. Thunderstorms, piercing dust, hot rain, black forest, hungry flames bite the plank. Marimba threshes a wooden floor. A star falls, dusk gathers, smell of rain on your fingertips. Woo, woo. Undressing moons without moving. Kabaze. Yeah. Yeah, so the next piece is titled Vera the Ghost. I don't know if I'm allowing you guys to digest some of these pieces. Yeah. So the next piece is titled Vera the Ghost. Vera the Ghost is an urban legend based on a woman who returns from the dead after being sexually assaulted and murdered by taxi drivers. My granny told me how my uncle, Vaterfal, that's my uncle's name, Vaterfal, who worked the night shift, had an encounter in the early hours upon returning home with Vera. And the nature of the experience was a nurturing one, as though while he walked through the dingy township streets, She was a guiding star, protecting him from the tsotis, from hardened criminals as he was returning home. So in this book, I also have like, I tell these stories, but I also kind of give you a background, and it's written so you can read a little bit more, especially for people who might not have a sense of the township experience. So the piece goes such. Even today, as I cut into the flesh of midnight, I can hear you, Black Angel, without seeking your face, watching over my shoulder. I drift along home quietly, as though you were not there. Taxi drivers of this town no longer stop to carry single passengers at night. They say one should avoid your eye contact. The magnetic beauty of your eyes turns nothing down. As today burns into eager night, I know we shall meet far away in hell, where we will no longer need eyes to see the beauty inside our hearts. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. Do I still have time? Because I'm just going into pieces.
You have
Um,
time. We started
okay,
late, so I'm giving you some time.
okay. Thank you. The next piece is titled "To My Dead Dog." To the memory of my friend Yogi Meister, the one I loved the most, which is my beautiful dog. Njaya Mamokoto, a shattered dream left to rot alongside tarnished road ants and worms nourished by your dead body. Finish estlaro. Can't get kantolaga. Masipa fedile. No more jacketing warmth with fare. The road is not fair. Rest in pieces, dead dog. I will sniff juicy bones, memories buried in my mind's backyard. I will not invite flies. This time, it's goodbye, sporty. Yeah, that's to my dead dog. Yeah, Monday blues. Monday morning, watching sun rise at dawn of a drinking spree. Beziwa more, empty cans on the floor, cash for trash for the rest of the week, no cash. Only peeling peanuts in my tiki pocket or hoping for change to find a coin of fortune to flip out of poverty. Where I'm back again on a Monday morning, Babalas. Yeah, that's a Monday blues. Uh, I, I always go into these pieces, but I also write love pieces. Someone told me that I write love pieces, good love pieces. I don't know. So I'll just share and you guys can probably make up your tell me. Um, so this one is titled Tababusi. Behind a cold mountain is a burnt black forest. Behind a cold mountain is a burnt black forest. I woke up in your arms, the smell of wet lands. Bathe my eyes in your glittering nightgown. Listen to my heart, listening to the music of your heartbeat. Now the air in my breath is stolen because you have vacated. I miss you through the night that blooms like a lily in ruins. I suffer in the radiation burns of silence. There is no way out, for it was written, with silver ivory of a metallic blue note and pinched out by the gods. I'll do another short love piece, which is called Love Close Blues. Close Blues. I shred against your tearing light endlessly, gently worming out of the cracks, finding moist more than often, and the glint of feathered dreams, boisterous rainbow, blistering golden beyond the sunset. I'll bring another short piece. Um, this one is titled Genesis. Um, so it goes like this. Marimba sprawled her keys, making ripples in our origins. She swung her golden axe into the tree of life, carving double bass and drums. From the ribs of angels, she fashioned the birds, harmonically kissing their beaks to soothe their tune, freeing their wings to descend on us, songs of enchantment. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I'll do another piece. Um, I think this is for Jack. He actually featured it in the Bob poetry review, which I really appreciate. So I thought maybe I should bring the sound to it. This one is titled An All-White Party. And it was, I think Jack used it to kind of speak to the notion of freedom 30 years into a democracy. So I thought it would be appropriate for me to kind of sound it. All-White Party. Dressed to kill, hungry on arrival, tank on reserve. I park strategically, disallowed entrance by a lousy doorman to a party venue. Home, a million stars away from my ghetto heaven. I waiting for calls after calling my host, SMSs, mixed media, Nochel, yar, stubborn blind faith. One knee struck at the mercy of hope, weighed down, dangling for a response, waiting on my toes, rounding clocks count minutes of my life wasting in seconds. Truth finally dawns to console me. Zwip, zwap. People keep dogging inside, but me, ousted by lousy doorman, only Jah overstands. Josie-eyed, jiveless op-afringers in a small dorpy. Man, put tech, man. You can keep your all-white party. Ha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
hi, Kabelo. Hi, we are here.
Yes, 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 yes.
Um, can we please unmute and give Kabelo a big round of applause? The
Thank
only
you.
humane touch you get. Zoom
Thank
readings
you.
are so disorientating. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming. And I have questions. I have questions,
Yes,
but I can hold off. I can hold off and open the room to questions. If you have any questions for Kabelo, you can either put your hand up or put it in the chat. Um, but if there are no questions, I will indulge myself. Kabelo, I'm curious. I'm curious
yes,
about how you began your reading. You began by pointing out that you are more of a performance poet. So I'm curious about how the move felt from being predominantly a performer and really depending on having people around to hear the words versus, working on a collection, which is very different and has its own kind of intricacies.
Mhm.
How did that move feel between, having being a performance poet and then having to write? Because
Yeah,
as much as they are part of the same family, but they're very different.
yeah. Well, with performance, it's quite interesting because I mean, I'd love to have a drum, and a drum in itself, it has a way of affecting the space in a very particular way. Um, but also, I come from that hip hop generation, so the beat and riding on a beat with the flow is what we do. It's how we do. And also it's very interesting because I think a lot of the time when we like in those kind of performance spaces and writing in that space, it's got this sense of spontaneity, you know. And the stuff that is more sort of quieter, it's not as spontaneous. It's also, seeking clarity whilst writing it. And I think it comes out in the way that it's read, you know, you kind of a sense of allowing people to kind of, move with you in the reading, so even the delivery or reading it out, it's not the same. But I think, however, both aspects are important because when people read what you've said, it's almost like you as the person who speaks can stand behind what can stand behind your words when people are able to read them. So I think both aspects are very necessary. However, for me, poetry is often something that is said. It's often people. It's almost like the music that is internal, and people are able to, and then you're able to sort of name things, and in that naming, you are able to kind of make important statements and express your concerns or things that are of urgent to you and the discourse that surrounds you. Yeah, I don't know if that answers. Yeah,
It does. It does in a particular way, but I'll follow up
yeah.
later.
Okay, okay.
Lana is asking a question,
Yeah,
and Lana is asking if you write your performance poems beforehand, or yeah, if you write them beforehand and then you rehearse them before you perform them, or is it just spontaneous? At least that's what I'm getting from the question, and it's not a daft question, Lana.
yeah. I think I tried to answer that a bit, but some of the pieces, like especially like the Pimtown's Complex, it's a piece that is built with music. So in that, there are also kind of like catchphrases. So if you know the music, it kind of contextualizes the piece in a much deeper way. You get a deeper sense of what the piece is actually saying or what it's referring to. Um, so and obviously like the piece can change depending on the mood as you deliver it, or maybe depending on the audience as well. So you're kind of feeding off the audience as well as you are kind of so the written word is almost like a scale, but then you tend to improvise as in your delivery. So, but in the writing process, it's something that you kind of you develop it, and maybe somebody brings in a certain instrument and that gives it direction to go in a certain way that you did not anticipate. So you can start here and end up elsewhere as you develop the piece. And some of these pieces, they take years. The same piece that you've been writing, you find that, when you encounter a certain musician, it just has a life of its own. So it's very interesting in that way. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so it's always work in progress. It's always work in progress. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
thank you. Thank you, Lana. I hope your question was
yeah.
answered. Jacques, please go ahead.
Mhm, mhm.
Hi, Kabelo. It's
Hello,
lovely.
Job. How are you, Job?
I'm well and getting better, I'm doing well, thank you. I'm
Thank you.
I really enjoyed your reading. It was lovely to hear those poems being performed. I was also curious about that thing that Nondwe asked, the movement between the performance and the page. But the other thing that I love the way you write about music and musicians. But the thing that I was curious about is your own place in the poems. How sometimes you almost function like you're recording, like you're recording the voices, or you're recording the stories, what she said, and so on. And then at other times you put yourself in the poem and you say, but here I am roaming darkly, behind the fence, behind the gate. Is that something that's very deliberate? Do you think about that a lot? Or do you find that as you write, you just suddenly there's a space that you can occupy, or is it something that you think about a lot?
That's interesting. I mean, as you're saying this, I'm just thinking, like, I mean, when I started writing, it's not like I had a community of writers, but there was pieces that I was reading, and one had to often kind of develop their own communities with other writers. So, for me, like being inspired by obviously the Black consciousness movement, most of the people who or my seniors were not around to kind of organize us or create literary clubs or literary movements. So we kind of were little people in the city of Johannesburg, organizing often. So sometimes we'd write collectively, so basically somebody will come with a style, and then we try to, or even if it's not necessarily a performance style, it could be somebody coming with a certain text or a certain tune, and we respond to those tunes. And sometimes would be, organizing a cultural work as cultural workers, organizing poetry sessions. And maybe there's a particular concern. For example, if maybe at that time when we started, load shedding would be the concern, would be writing stories that kind of address those kind of social ills. So a lot of the stuff that one would write, or maybe where it came from, where I started writing before I personalized some of the pieces, they mostly came out of responses to the discourse that surrounds us. So one is probably so that probably comes out, but also, as I said, learning to organize and putting these sessions together, that kind of made one operate as a cultural worker. So all of these concerns, even also with the music thing, I mean, the kind of poetry that I might have been exposed to Black consciousness poetry, but at some point I was also reading like Shakespeare. And if you want to read Shakespeare in the township experience, people will just go to sleep. So it became highly imperative that one kind of picks up an instrument and writes with a sense of trying to address their community. And that also kind of molded how I sort of incorporate various languages in my own writing, because I'm addressing a particular community. So some of these pieces are really also about speaking to older poets, speaking to specific people within the community, using that specific language to kind of address those issues in that community, And some of the more quieter pieces, like the love pieces that I shared today, they came from a much deeper space, where obviously like emotions of hurt from love, from a romantic relationship. And that in itself, you can even hear like the images, they're very unique in terms of they're probably unexplored if you're a voracious reader and you're widely read in terms of, and you have a ground well read in terms of literature. So those are very unique images. They're not coming from Black consciousness movement or coming from the everyday speech patterns or images that are emerging from the community, but they come maybe from somewhere deeper, beyond just the physical or the political or the ideological kind of base that has molded one whilst developing as a growing poet in the city of Johannesburg. So yeah, so I hope that I'm able to kind of respond to your question, Jack, in how I place myself in my own writing, or what has influenced me in my own writing. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I mean, I like the visceralness of
Yeah.
the where you speaking you say speaking more ideologically as well.
Yeah.
Just the just the babble of voices, the different voices and languages.
Yes.
It's very compelling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you, Jacques. And Amochelang says, thank you so much for these beautiful pieces. What I would like to know is if the name for the collection, Hungry on Arrival, came first as an idea, or did you compile the pieces first and then find a name for them?
Yeah, funny enough, like Hungry on Arrival, you know, um, I used to perform this piece called Starvation is My Name in the city of Johannesburg. It became a very popular piece. And some of my friends started calling me the Hungry Poets because it's the piece itself, it's actually trying to communicate, or it attempts to articulate the experience of children in Kliptown. Kliptown obviously is the home of where the Freedom Charter was sort of deliberated in the early 60s, you know. So, and looking at the experience in Kliptown now, where there hasn't been much development, or even if they maybe try to kind of develop the space, it gets vandalized. So that piece, Starvation is My Name, I think maybe also kind of enabled me to develop my own voice away from what I was reading, but maybe kind of like speak to the people who are affected by a serious crisis, you know. So that piece became very popular. And some of my friends started calling me, Kabelo, the hungry poet, you know, because of, you know, also I think in that piece itself, like starvation is my name. My friends call me Talafel. I survive in Ezozo, on the outskirts of Creepies. I'm always at home among street kids. Our favorite game, Nix Mapa. At night when knuckles knock on my door, I scop Skotlolo under mattress of my house of hunger. So also European House of Hunger, which is obviously Tamuzo Marichera's context. But also there's this deep inequalities, you know. So the hunger aspect, obviously, it's followed me, the hungry poet, it's followed me. And maybe it also has an ideological base in terms of maybe what are the concerns that come out of the collection. On the other hand, it speaks to a tune that was developed by, that was composed by a beautiful bassist. His name is Ofanazu. And I think I mean the piece the tune itself does not have words, it does not have lyrics. So I think maybe my own kind of writing, my poetry and the things that I expressed within my poetry, they kind of become a lyrical aspect to that particular tune, you know. And you know, I mean I've also considered this for a long time in ways that I mean I would not be the first poet to kind of think of using a South African tune to name the collection. There's been like Jolinkomo by Mafika Koala, there's been Yakalinkomo by Wali Mungana Serote. So the usage of tune and how we build our pieces of music, it's something that is widely there, you know, it's something that's been ongoing for a long time. So yeah. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Amochelang. I hope you have been sufficiently answered. Then Lana says, Kabelo, so you have to try and remember the awesome stuff you add along the way. Wow, hard if
Okay.
you get something brilliant you improvised.
Okay, okay.
And then Kim has a question. I wrote a poetry book, The Metaphor of Metamorphosis. As a South African woman myself living abroad, would you say that writing or performing poetry based on emotional turmoil or history is everlasting? Everlasting in the sense that millennials don't read poetry anymore and technology is taking over the world and attention spans are being shorter. And no one seems interested in authenticity anymore.
Hmm,
So that is the question.
hmm. It sounds more like a statement.
No, the question is, would you say that writing or performing poetry based on emotional turmoil or history is
Hmm,
everlasting? So that's the question.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I think nobody stands outside of history, first of all, Um, so there are a lot of things that are happening that have happened over time. And I think it's very important to kind of consider this notion of what is a collective memory, you know. And I think in that way it kind of deepens and it substantiates perhaps some of the spaces where we come from. And obviously, like, I think the challenge is to also kind of create new memories. Funny enough, like yesterday I was reading this piece by an interview by Alice Walker, and looking at reading that piece, and she was kind of discussing what's happening in Cuba. These doctors are living the conditions that they're living under, and for me, it kind of also reminded me of a space like Zimbabwe, where you find so many people who are skilled and educated, but the sanctions that they're undergoing have kind of, you know, has ruined the country, and people are all over the world just trying to make a living, and most of them probably in South Africa. So drawing on history and looking at how people certain struggles may have affected certain countries over time, and does kind of inform our immediate discourse or certain things that are happening in the world. And I think we can learn a lot from that. So yeah, I don't know if that's, yeah, that speaks to anything that, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. Kim
definitely.
hearts it. So it did answer her question was answered.
Yeah.
Um, and so are there any other questions before we close our question session down? Are there any other questions? Any other comments? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. Oh, Jacques. There you go. How's your?
Yes.
Just a quick question. Do you often perform? I sometimes get the sense from your poems that you are in such a close conversation with jazz musicians that I imagine you actually performing with them in real time. Do you often work with musical collaborators? And have you recorded some of your poems with musical accompaniment or in musical conversation?
Yeah. Yes, I have. Um, you know, funny enough, like I think I'm like within the spoken word movement that emerged between probably like 1996 or
Mhm.
1997. Um, in Johannesburg from that period. I'm probably like one of the few people who recorded because I belong to a hip hop band. They're mostly rapping in, like what they call MCing, but I was, doing this spoken word thing that I'm doing now. And I was the only person who was doing that on that particular record. And the piece was kind of used yeah, by for a soundtrack for one of the SABC documentaries. And I've persisted in this way. Right now I find there's some people who are sending me pieces so we can collaborate, and yeah, so some guys sent me a house tune last week. Very
Mhm.
interesting. Tomorrow I'm meeting up with a pianist. Um, but at the launch of Hungry on Arrival, I had a beautiful drama, and it was, he also kind of embodied my collection. And what we did was a bit more, it was performance, but it was highly theatrical, and it just so beautiful. So, and other people feel that the words the work itself is highly visual. So some people, I think, I mean, I've been approached by filmmakers who are thinking about adopting some of the pieces to do, well, I don't know, a documentary or film. So there are people who are speaking about, or rather, what my brother was saying a couple of days ago. Like, there are many spin-offs to the book, and people are thinking of working with me and seeing what they can do with the collection. So I'm really happy about that. But in terms of performance, yeah, like music is my love. I also kind of did like I did an MA where I focused mostly on ethnomusicology. No, I did an MA ethnomusicology, an MA in ethnomusicology and musicology at Rhodes University, where my paper was focusing on the history of South African jazz from the Eastern Cape in Johannesburg, which is a story of migration. So yeah, so I spend a lot of time with musicians, especially from the Eastern Cape in Johannesburg, and curating their music and developing the spaces for performance for them. And that influenced a lot of how I write, and my approach in writing as well. So yeah, there's a lot I think that could still be done in terms of musically, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with other musicians and doing something probably fresh, and also writing on their own sort of ideas. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. I'm learning so much. Considering I'm someone who's working in poetry, it's always intriguing for me to hear some of these things. And the loss that we face and that I've experienced at the very least, is that a lot of poets who work in the performance space, so much of the performance is lost because all of it has an immediacy to it. If you miss it
Yes,
in
yes, yes.
a moment, then it
True.
never kind of outlives that. And last week it was World Book Week, and we had this exhibition. And one of the writers who was reading for World Book Day said, "We write in order to not die." And I like
Yeah.
that idea that
Wow.
we write not to die, because I mean the spoken is so important, but so much of that becomes lost. And to hear that you've recorded is also really interesting.
Yeah.
And rare for that period, because that
Yeah.
period, a lot of that work, if you weren't there to experience that work, then you are never going to experience it, because a lot of those poets no longer perform some of that work
Yes.
performed.
True. True.
So yeah, really
Wow.
intriguing and interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions. Oh,
All
there
right.
are comments. So there's
Okay.
comments in the chat. Lana says, lovely poems, thank you. And so enriched, I'm sure, by the layers of communal engagement, which you won't find much in, let's say, certain sections of society. I think Fugard and the Serpent Players and the magic that came from all of that, humbling. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
And then Ed says, hi, Kabelo, thank you for your reading. Enjoy the musicality of your words and the expressiveness in your delivery. Also the humor and often surprising imagery in the poems. Like the poem about your dog.
Yeah, I love that man. I love that man. Yeah,
And
it's a bond.
Monday Blues is my favorite.
Ah, thank you. Thank
Thoroughly
you.
enjoyed it.
I mean, it's the love, for it's like I think what James Baldwin was talking about. The world is held together by the love of a few people. But I think more than any other thing, it's about not only just having a love for romantic love, but it's also love for dog, love for animals, love for community and serving. And some people work for money. I don't know. I don't do that as much. I know it's very important to survive, but it's about love for it's about love for the self and love for others, and I think in that way, it opens up spaces like this particular platform, and I really appreciate it's the I've been having conversations with Jug. We haven't met with Jug, but it's this love that I feel so deeply, and I truly appreciate this. And yeah, so I think the love also opens up certain spaces for us to be able to share intimately and deeply, and I really appreciate that yeah, from everybody who's joined us tonight, and yeah, and even those who couldn't come. But yeah, I know there are a lot of people who are not able to be here, but there's love coming from everywhere, and I appreciate that very much.
We appreciate you. Jacques, go ahead. You want to say something.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful to be in the room. It's wonderful to hear your voice after reading the poems. It's great.
Wow, thank you, Jack.
Yeah, I think we appreciate every poet who comes here. And just for context, for those of you who are new to the space and you've never been here, We don't offer any funds for the space. We don't make any money out of this. We just do it out of just a dedication to poetry, to South African poetry. And I think ultimately, if I may speak on behalf of Jacques and Ed, who are here in the room, and our other members who are not in the room, ultimately, I think we'd really love a more involved poetry space. Where we all hear each other from all the different ways in which poetry presents itself in the country. We'd love to see that. And hopefully, if we are able to wrangle some funds at some point, we'd really love to have all our poets who've been to the space actually come to be in one place together and just commune together around poetry. That would be like the ideal, the pinnacle of what the space can create. So thank you for honoring our invitation. It really means a lot to us because not every poet does this. So every poet who does do it is really an honor and a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, sorry for being late. This African time thing, I'm trying to get out of it. But yeah, you know, one of my favorite musicians, he's got this album titled African Time. And he says, African time is not late coming. He says it happens when you are ready. So I was not ready, but I got ready, you know. Yeah.
Well, we will close
Okay.
this session now.
Yeah.
And
Thank,
yes,
thank you for your
thank you.
patience. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for everybody's patience who's still with
Thank you. Thank you. Truly
So
appreciate.
we'll take a short breather and have a cute open mic session. So I'll give
All right.
everybody 5 minutes. So
Okay.
at 2050, we are back for
Okay.
an open mic.
Okay. Thank you.